Good morning for AM 1340, 99.5 FM WGRV. I'm Reid Seals, and I'm here with Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison for our monthly interview. Good morning, Kevin.
Good Thursday morning, Reid.
And first off, just tell us about the landfill joint venture with the Town of Greeneville.
Yeah, the landfill joint venture began at the beginning of the month on Wednesday, July the 1st, as a way for the Town of Greeneville and Greene County solid waste departments, public works departments, to save money in processing and transporting our trash. Prior to July the 1st, GFL, which was the landfill company down in Morristown, was previously managing the transfer station and transporting our garbage from the Old Stage Road facility to the landfill. They had contracted that out, the transportation part of it, to a third-party contractor. And beginning July 1st, Greene County took over the transportation. They took over the transfer station, and then Greeneville assumed control of the demolition landfill, as well as sort of management and monitoring of the old Class 1 landfill from years ago. So we've entered into this partnership to save money. The town of Greeneville actually can generate a little revenue above and beyond what they were getting. And then Greene County's portion, rather, is a fairly significant savings from the cost outlay that they were laying out for contractor work. So we've been working the bugs out over the last 3 weeks. We've had some equipment issues. We've gone back to using the equipment that the previous joint venture had in place out there. We've done some significant maintenance. We've got a plan to replace some of that stuff very soon. But we think this can result in significant savings to the taxpayers of Greene County, which I'm all for, and be very good for the citizens of Greeneville in terms of allowing them to generate a little revenue from the demolition landfill.
Now, on Monday at the commission meeting, there seemed to be a lot of controversy about the highway department superintendent not wanting to accept the employee handbook for his employees. Can you explain that?
Well, each elected official or department head, has that prerogative. Coming into office in 2018, the Personnel Policy Committee convened, and they've been working very hard and very diligently over the last couple of years, meeting very regularly, trying to craft, if you will, an administrative sort of divisional policy that would be fair and impartial across the board to all employees, regardless of department, regardless of shift, and provide some continuity. It is also a way for the county commission, for instance, to monitor and manage the budget, because anytime you're dealing with or executing employee benefits, that has some, or can have some, fairly significant impact on the budget across a budget as big as ours. The employee handbook is really more or less for administrative divisions. It has nothing in there that's really specific for certain departments, but each elected official does have the ability to opt out, if you will. All the department heads and elected officials in Greene County, with the exception of the highway department, did sign on to the current policy. That's what was voted on Monday night. They thought they had a very good policy in place that was very generous, very fair, and I think that borne out in the fact that nearly everyone joined it. I certainly didn't want to get into the middle of any type of argument with members of the county commission, the personnel policy committee, and any department head, as I manage or have administrative control over 14 different departments. So I had to weigh whether or not the policy that was presented was fair to those employees. And in my view, it was. It's very beneficial, again, very generous, I thought. And I think we've got a good policy. So the road superintendent may go back and review and see and examine exactly what was in the personnel policy and choose to join. He may not, but that would be solely up to him.
Now, do you know why the cabins at Kinser Park that were approved to be taken down were allowed to get into such a dilapidated state?
Well, Reid, over the years, there have been significant sort of management changes and administrative changes out at Kinser Park. Kinser Park is doing very, very well now. The park is full. The campers seem to be very happy. The cost and charges are very much probably lower in line than you would see in other typical campgrounds. Anthony Carter does a tremendous job out there keeping that place looking very good. But the cabins, for whatever reason, I don't know if they fell out of favor or what years ago, but they were more or less sort of left closed or left vacant, if you will. And of course, anybody knows that if you have a vacant home or anything like that where it stands empty, that it starts to deteriorate very rapidly, more so than there would be if someone was in it or living in it. And they, again, out of sight, out of mind, I guess. So over the years, they just left them closed, and they deteriorated to the point that the liability insurance basically said, listen, you're going to have to do something with these or we're going to cancel your policy. So we had had the building inspector, Tim Tweed, to go out there. He did a great job in going basically top to bottom, foundation to roof, to see if they were worth saving. We could basically take the mixture of the two cabins that are out there and make one good one, but the cost of doing so was very prohibitive. So what we've decided to do, what the commission voted on to do, the oversight committee, after examining it, then recommended that we just go ahead and demolish those two cabins and perhaps create some additional camping spaces on that side of the park that would generate revenue, and then we could recoup our expenses that way.
Now that the election commission has moved into their new building, how will the county go about selling the old election office?
Well, at Monday night's meeting, I announced that I would soon convene the property sales committee to begin consideration for sale of the old election building there on Main Street. So that's the proper procedure. We can't enter into any type of agreement with anyone, to sell it privately or whatever. We do have to have a public auction if we're going to sell it. I don't know what the property committee will decide. In things like this, sometimes there's a reserve put on things like that to make sure that it sort of doesn't go at somewhat of a fire sale price, that we recoup some of the taxpayer dollars that went into maintaining or constructing that facility. But it would need to be declared surplus property and be sold that way at public auction. So that's what we intend to do going forward in the future with that building there. So.
And are there any plans to enact any sort of shutdown in reaction to COVID-19 by the county, such as what the city did a couple of weeks ago?
Well, the city of Greeneville had a 3-phase plan that ratcheted up or ratcheted down, if you will, different precautions and measures based on the number of cases per the population. Right now, Greeneville sits in phase 1. Essentially, that affects only city buildings and their limited or controlled access to the public. Prior to this, during the shutdown that everyone probably remembers, we were under a lot of the governor's executive orders. We really can't do that again at the county level without the governor taking some direct action, as, for instance, if you remember, the governor, by executive order, extended the expiration of all licenses, tags, and things like that for a period of 2 or 3 months. So therefore, it made it easier for us who distribute the tags and things like that to close the facility to public access. But without that executive order, we can't do that now. So we have to remain open to the public, because if your tags expire at the end of this month and we're closed, then you run the risk of getting pulled over for being cited for having a registration violation. We certainly don't want to do that. We want to try to keep the government open, which is one of the reasons, for instance, for the mask mandate in the region, is to try to keep or avoid what we experienced back in March and April, which was a shutdown of our economy. So if we can take small measures, like wearing a mask, to try to get control, for instance, of the virus a little bit more aggressively, then we can avoid shutting down the economy. But as of right now, we don't intend to close any facility. That being said, I know there's a great debate going on now with regard to schools and whether they're going to open or not, and whether they can do so safely. That decision rests solely on the decision of the school board, with input, of course, from our health professionals and all of that sort of thing, and they are taking those into account. But as far as the government goes, the county government, we don't plan to shut down any facility other than what we've already done, which is to have the mask mandate where we can't have social distancing where that's not practical, and hope to get control of it that way, unless the governor obviously would change or have some type of executive order allowing us to extend the deadline for the services that we offer, and license tags is the perfect example of that.
Well, I want to thank Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison for joining us this morning. This is Reid Seals for AM 1340 and 99.5 FM WGRV.